Razor Ramon.
Hey,
I'm
yo.
gonna throw that name out there.
Hey yo.
Scott
How many
Hall.
times as a kid did you say, "Hey yo"? Did you throw a toothpick?
I just
Did
threw
you
one
do
at
the
Jimmy
ba-
at the
ba-
barbershop
ba-
today.
ba-
He did, yeah.
No.
I did. I had to.
I allowed
it. I mean, could you
Had
not
to.
after this week?
Had to. Scott Hall, my words off the top of my head right now, heartbreaking. This one was very heartbreaking, very painful. Anytime any legend from pro wrestling passes, it's very painful, very heartbreaking. But this one hit extra hard because of whether you heard it, whether you saw documentaries, whether you read about it. He did his fucking thing. He had a very, very long and painful battle with being a victim of that era of pro wrestling where it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll, kind of where wrestling and the music industry kind of met. The music industry obviously still being there, the wrestling industry cleaning itself up as much as it can. You saw recent situations with John Moxley, rare occurrences, but Scott Hall was a victim of being in an era where everyone was living that lifestyle.
Yeah. Doing
And
cocaine just to wake up in the morning.
He cleaned himself up years ago. I would even say over a decade now.
It was right before his Hall of Fame, so around 2013, 2012.
He was
So
sober
yeah,
for
probably
pretty much
years,
a decade.
I
Probably
think,
about a
before
decade,
they
yeah.
let him in the Hall of Fame.
It was about like
2 or 3
years, 2 or 3 years.
They
Yeah, that's
made
very
it,
accurate.
at least.
And that sucks because, you watching his comeback story then, because he had like an E60 documentary.
There was, I think it was in either Fall River or New Bedford.
Fall River was
where
the
he, like,
show where
stumbled
you
down
saw
the-
him kind of OD at.
That's where he was. It was New Bedford.
was-
or
yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Wow, that promoter was an asshole, by the way.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
sure
I
was.
don't.
No,
It's
I
still,
mean-
100%.
No,
Yeah,
it was,
yeah.
I don't.
Blast
you
him.
know.
Who gives a shit?
I 100% agree. I don't think anybody will disagree with you. It sucks because you watch comeback stories like that happened a decade ago, and you don't expect something like this to happen, and it's an unfortunate situation where he had
3 fucking heart attacks.
he had 3 heart attacks.
Like right after
his heart
surgery.
his
Like,
heart
that's-
basically couldn't handle the surgery that he was having, and for a wrestler who came from that, there's some people who I've been hearing say, and they're not necessarily wrong, say he lived for longer than people expected, but to watch him come
Shitty
back,
thing to say, but I mean,
yeah, but to watch him come back from that, you want him to,
It'd
you want to
be
keep
longer
rooting.
now.
Yeah,
keep rooting, exactly. Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I think it just hits everybody pretty heavy because I think we can all say that it's like a piece of our childhood died more than anything. You know what I mean? I don't know if somebody who's a 12-year-old wrestling fan right now feels the same as we do.
No.
Even if they, go back and they watch the old matches, I don't think that it's still going to hit them the way it probably hits somebody, our age, 25 to whatever, 45. I mean, I love Shawn Michaels. We all know that. I made it clear on the podcast today. Jimmy knows. I mean, but when I was a kid, Shawn Michaels was the blonde hair, clean cut. You know what I mean? My dad had black hair. I had black hair. My dad had the chest hair. You know what I mean? Like
Razor made that
Razor
shit
was
cool.
just like, my hero, really. I cheered for Razor Ramon, not Shawn Michaels, when I was a kid, because he was like relatable to me. You know what I mean? So it really was sad when he passed away. It's like I really did lose a chunk of my childhood, which I think, again, you guys can all agree with, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Still one of my favorite ladder matches of all time.
Ooh,
and it's
yeah.
not even the bias with Shawn Michaels. It's just that it was the first. Usually the first is not one of the best.
No, true. It's
and
not.
that
It's
is
usually
one
the
of
most,
the best.
Yeah. Though his match against Brett, though, at the Rumble.
Yes, that's another
too.
good one that we brought up at the
I did.
Yeah.
And I actually went out of my way to watch it for you because I knew you were such. I knew if we had Tug Razor Ramon, I knew you'd weasel in Bret Hart at some point. So I went ahead and watched the match. And it was
because
good.
you could weasel in Sean too. They had
Sure
the
you
first
could.
ever ladder match. Yeah.
When you said first ever, I want to go directly to Hell in the Cell with the Undertaker, but we're not going to go there. It's Razor Ramon's night and Scott Hall. But I mean, in that match, because I just appreciated like how good he was at working in the ring and selling because Bret Hart is like technical. He's not really like pick you up and slam you. You know what I mean? And like anything he did with his leg or like tripping him, like Scott Hall was taking, like boom, like taking these, like falling back, where I was like, wow, like this was a great match, and even though he knew he was gonna lose, he's still like, he made it a good match. He wasn't spiteful about it, or I just, it's a tough loss for wrestling.
You also
for
got to
sure.
think how strong he was back in the day too, because like his finisher, the Razor's Edge, like he's lifting some heavy boys over his head
by the arm.
by the arms,
Yeah.
not by something where it's like they can hold a little bit about their weight. He's holding pretty much all the. I mean, I'm sure they might be helping by like pressing up or something, but he's holding a lot of their weight. And
my rare couple guys in my top 5-10 is like Shawn, Jericho, and Punk. But if you look at that list, it's like guys like Taker, guys like Razor, his body type, his build. He is one of the rare big guys that didn't move like the average big guy, where it was like, fucking 5 miles an hour, simple set, nothing wowed you. He moved with the charisma that he moved with when he talked on the microphone. And you look at him from a distance and you don't hear him talk on the mic and you don't see him wrestle. He should be one of those guys who is bland, but he wasn't.
he was not.
Ever.
He was the opposite of bland.
Whether it was Razor or whether it was Scott Hall and NWO.
I mean, I thought he was Cuban for the first couple of
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did a good job of that, right?
He did a very good job of that, yeah.
Being like racist about it, he did a great job of acting Spanish
Of
and not
course.
being
Yeah,
Spanish. You keep saying big man, and I don't know, to the casual fan, I didn't even know this until like 3 years ago. Scott Hall was 6'8". I thought he was, because he's always really 6'8". But he's always standing next to Kevin Nash for most of his career, so you don't pick up on it. But he is a big man.
He's a big guy.
He's a big guy. You would consider him a big man.
Him and Kurt Hennig, when they came into the NWA, or no, not NWA, AWA, like they were those guys
Tag
were
team,
beefy.
yeah, good
Holy
tag team.
cow. Wow.
Kurt Hennig, another R.I.P. Great wrestler. I mean, what else can we say about the man, the Razor?
Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
I mean, and we'll never forget him. I just phenomenal wrestler. I'll never forget when he walked on a Nitro. Like as a kid, like not knowing what's, you know what I mean? When like kayfabe is like, that's what I loved about that era. And like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and like
broke that shit.
They did, and they truly did. And he like, if it wasn't for them and like that, I believe that brought wrestling out of the grave, truly.
Yeah.
Oh my
in
God,
the
yeah.
sense of like,
I mean that whole thing changed the wrestling business forever. Like I have it ingrained in my head. It's like, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here.
For the kids now,
yes.
Scott Hall was part of the boys who had that original. Without that moment, there wouldn't be these moments on AEW where guys from the other side come in and you're like, holy shit. The original moment where people opened the forbidden door was Scott Hall and the boys.
And Kevin Nash, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
and interesting, like in his real life too. Like, I mean, because I've watched documentaries. Didn't know until like a couple months ago. Honestly, didn't know he killed a guy when he was younger.
Yeah,
He did. Yeah, self-defense though.
Was in the army. He was self-defense, but he's got to live with it. You know what I mean?
True.
He was in the army. He and just I remember who told the story. I think it was Kevin Nash. Like Scott Hall, I guess, would do things like 5 seconds before you wrestled him, and you guys were both like standing behind the curtain. He would look at you before you walked out, and Kevin Nash goes, he would just look at the guy he was wrestling and go, "You're gonna wear that out there?" And then just walk out to his entrance music and just like, because he was just the man, dripping, oozing machismo.
Yeah.
He's just the
dripping
man.
in gold.
The original,
Versace,
very charismatic. Yeah.
He just had to be himself. He didn't have to be anything else but himself.
There was a line where I heard he's like talking to somebody about this finish. He's like, "Oh, what's your finish, kid? I can't wait to kick out of it." Something like that. Like he was just
That's who Scott Hall is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the, I would say, definitely top 10 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I mean, and what they did for the wrestling industry won't be forgotten.
He's a pioneer, bro.
The best wrestling to me is when kayfabe is blurred. That's
Yeah,
always
he was
like,
part of that. He was
He
part of the
was.
original.
of doing that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So
I mean, I think that's all I got for this week.
yeah. R.I.P. man, Razor, aka Scott
Scott
Hall.
Hall.
Two very, very, very. You know both of those personalities when it comes to pro wrestling, especially when you grew up watching it in the 90s.
Yeah.
And for the kids who don't, I'm sure you already have
Go
an
on
idea.
YouTube,
Go
do a
on
little
YouTube,
Google
Yeah,
search.
do
your
yourself a
thing.
favor.
Yeah, do something.
And
favor,
even
exactly.
and even jerk the tears a little bit, bro. Go on and find that that E60 documentary is an amazing
that was
comeback
tough.
story.
It was, yeah.
Very, very amazing comeback story. So